Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you the next part of the implementation. So what I've done here is I've got a hover system. You can hover over any card and it shows the pop-up, and then you can just pick up a card and drag it around. If you let go anywhere, it returns it back onto the deck. Doesn't really matter where it is, and the hover card, the focus card, is only shown if we're not actually dragging it, so it's not sort of trying to show them as we drag around other cards. So let me show you how that has been done. So for the focus card, this is just another instance of the prefab here, but I've just put that in its own place. I wanted it over off the screen and not sort of where the cards are, because I think it just makes it a little bit easier to see. And then most of the work for this is done in the card class itself. So there's a few things I've needed to add here. First of all, it has a reference to the focus card, so it's not sort of recursive in any way, it's just a reference to that particular card. And then we also need a sorting group, and I'll explain why in a moment. We also keep track of the position that we're using when we start dragging a card. We need to keep track of the position and the rotation of the card in its deck, so that when we let go of it, it can come back into the same place. And then a very important one here is we have a boolean to say whether or not any card is being dragged, but this is a static. So what that means is we want to make sure that that focus card is only being shown if we're not dragging a card, but that needs to be, we're not dragging any card at all. So that's why this is a static for this particular class. So the on mouse enter, on mouse exit, these will fire when the mouse simply hovers over that particular object in the scene. And then I've got just a couple of very simple methods here, which are show focus card, and all they literally do is just turn that game object on and off. Now the show focus card does one additional thing. What it's doing is it's calling the setup method with itself. It sounds a little bit confusing, but basically we want to, if we come back over to the setup function, what the setup function is doing is it's populating the data. So what we're doing is that focus card needs to have a copy of the data of the card that we're currently hovering over. So that's what it's doing. And yeah, we're just kind of like just passing in itself, really. So that is the hover functionality. And now for the dragging. So the first thing to do here is the on mouse down, that fires the first time that the left mouse button is clicked over a card. It's only called once. So it's basically like the first part of a click. And what we're doing here is we first of all we hide the focus card. We say I don't want to be showing that focus card anymore, and then we set that dragging boolean to say true, which means that we keep that hidden and you can't see the focus card anymore. Now the important part here also is this sorting order. So if I come back over to Unity, I have added a sorting group. Now if you think about sprites and the way they're displayed, so for example, if I go to my background objects, they're on different layers. So the background objects are on like a sorting layer, and you can put an order in layer. The problem with the card is that I want to make sure, if I just press play again, what I want to make sure is that the card which is being dragged, so if I click on any card, if I click on say this pink one, I want to make sure that as I pick it up, it appears on top of all the other cards. And we can't do it with say a sprite sorting layer, because it's not just one individual sprite, it's the entire card. So we can do that with this sorting group. So by default the sorting group is just 0. But then what I do here is as soon as we click the mouse down, I'm saving the value of it into a local variable, and then I just set it to 99. It's just an arbitrary number. You can set it to 1 or whatever, and as long as it's higher than 0, that's going to show above all the other cards. And then again, we're saving the position of the card in the deck, so we're saving both the position and the rotation, and then we're simply sort of tracking where it's going. So on the the mouse drag, there's also a little caveat here. So the camera, this provides a little helper function, screen to world point. Camera coordinates are not the same as Unity coordinates, and so we have to convert the kind of the world space of what the camera is looking at into the actual units of the game object that we're trying to manipulate. However, when you do that, the Z position, which is kind of how far into the scene, we have to make sure that that scene, if I don't put this line in, let me just comment that out. I'm going to show you what happens. So I'm going to just put this on focused so you can see both the scene view and the game view. So over here, bring a few cards up. Now if I drag one, in the game view it disappears, but in the scene view you can still see it. So the card is there, but you have to manipulate the Z position here. And again, the 1 is just an arbitrary number. It could be 99 or whatever. And that just makes sure that you can actually see that card. This was something that kind of caught me out for a little while before I actually figured that out. So that's just something to remember. And then the on mouse up, as soon as we release the card, we're simply bringing it back into the deck. So we set the sorting order back to what it was, and we set the transform position and rotation, and we say we're no longer being dragged, and that allows you to carry on hovering. And that's basically it. So it's pretty simple, really. So that is the sort of like the functionality of the card. So the next part, I'm probably going to have to figure out, have to start looking at what I'm going to do with the game, like what is a card going to actually do, and start thinking about, you know, how I'm going to deal with these people. So I'm not really sure what's the next part of the video is going to be, but that's all I've got for this one. Thanks very much for watching, guys.